making headlines in the last 24 hours. www.kbc.co.ke. Now this ushers in a new era, so to speak, or a new moment here where we get to sample what the scribes across the various dailies have picked for us. Front page. Mr. President, being September the 6th of 2022, a historic moment on the day that victory was affirmed by the highest court in the land, President-elect William Ruto set out to heal a divided nation, reaching out to his chief opponent Raila Odinga and retiring President Kenyatta, who last night promised a smooth transition. Now from a chicken seller to the hallowed precincts of State House. It did not come easy, and beyond the rhetoric, however, the hard part begins. In the next 100 days, this is something that we're going to be keenly waiting. What areas is the president-elect going to be focusing on within his first 100 days in office? He's expected to be sworn in on Tuesday. That is exactly 7 days after the judges made that ruling. So that is that. And also there's been a lot of reaction across the divide, leaders, international and local, and one woman who happens to be the mom. He said that this is according to William Ruto's mother, Sarah Samoei. She thanked Kenyans for electing her son as the country's fifth president, and said that Ruto persevered from a young age and still has the same spirit. I have never been to State House, and his win may enable me to visit him there soon. A reaction of a proud mom there. That's just by the sneak peek of the front page of the daily that I have with me here this morning. Victor.
On the front page of the Star newspaper, there we have it. President Ruto, my promise. President Ruto, my promise. Actually, there is no headline. That is what's the front page. Let's get into the second page. And still on first page, rather, on the front page, Raila concedes defeat, but he disagrees with the ruling. That's exactly what's on the front page of the Star. Let me just take you through that story. Odinga concedes but disagrees with judgment. Azimio leader Raila Odinga on Monday conceded defeat by his political nemesis William Ruto, promising strong opposition to check the incoming government. It was his fifth unsuccessful run for the presidency by the man considered by many the father of democracy in Kenya. And as that was happening, expect no handshake, Ruto tells Azimio's Raila, says that criminal justice system won't be used against rivals. Ruto instead told Raila to take his quote-unquote rightful place in the opposition, arguing that the only way to have his government kept in check is through a strong opposition. He said that unlike the current situation, the government has failed to live up to its pledges and remain accountable because the opposition was suppressed. Both the two gentlemen are talking the same language, opposition. Piki Ponki lawyer welcomes ruling after hysterical submissions. That is Willis Otieno. Otieno, however, maintains that the system was hacked. And his submissions before the 7 Supreme Court judges last week placed him at the center of a comic performance as he aggressively used humor to ridicule the arguments presented by the electoral agency to defend the election of President-elect William Ruto. Yes, Kenyans were entertained, from Piki Ponki to a plumber. And yes, Chebukati says that he did a good job. He said that, actually on Monday, he said that the verdict vindicated the commission from allegations leveled against it by some leaders who opposed Ruto's election. He also said that despite the intimidation and assault on the commission's staff, including himself, the court's decision is now a strong evidence that they performed their duties as required. That is according to Chebukati. How Ruto roamed home on first run. That is an interesting read. You can take a look at that story. It's fleshed out there for you. Why Raila lost State House for fifth time. why Raila lost State House for 5th time. It's also a story that is quite interesting. It's in details. Raila got 800... not really. The story says that some reasons protracted Azimio's negotiations, weakened grip on traditional bases, and over-reliance on President Uhuru Kenyatta's contributed to Raila's defeat by President-elect William Ruto. And what judges said on Raila's petition, there were 8 cases there that we'll also be looking later on with Wakili Eliud Ngugi in studio. It's sweet victory for Ruto as Supreme Court upholds win. Exactly. It's quite human to be at this particular point, to be happy. It's good. 7 judges unanimously declared election of Ruto as president-elect to be valid. Now, finally, MPs to elect speakers Thursday after Uhuru notice. The announcement sets the stage for a showdown between Azimio leader Raila Odinga and President-elect William Ruto's troops in the election of the next speakers in the 2 houses. In a Gazette notice, the president announced that the first sittings following the August 9th general election would be held at Parliament buildings in Nairobi. So that will happen on Thursday. That is where, after swearing in of MPs and the senators, then they will proceed to elect their speakers and deputy speakers respectively. Jen.
All right, let's run through the Daily Nation. Again, the main read still concerning the Supreme Court's final judgment in regards to Deputy President William Ruto's win in the just concluded general elections as now the president-elect. A story that has been covered from page 2 through to page 14. But in brief, they just cover the different aspects of this the past week's entire proceedings. But here they go on to say that in a biting summary judgment, the Supreme Court dismisses Raila Odinga's petition and clears the way for William Ruto's swearing in as a president in the next 7 days. They go on to give details as to how this particular journey started. Page 2 and 3 covers a piece that has been titled "The Road to Freedom," of the story of a village boy who rose from Sugoi to the ultimate seat of privilege, wealth and power in the country. The next pages, page 4 and 5, cover the story of Rigathi Gachagua now living the dream. He was criticized as quote-unquote unrefined, and now he is a heartbeat away from the top seat, that is the presidency in the country. Page 8 covers the question, the story of Raila Odinga, so near yet so far. For Raila Odinga, this was the best bet yet. But when it comes to his political career, the question remains, what now? On page 9 through to this story has also been covered on the back page of this particular daily. They title it "Uhuru Sulks." His choice defeated in the polls. The president vilifies the judges as he walks away with a bruised nose. They go on to also look at the whole question of swearing in of President Ruto, president-elect for that matter. Ruto is set to be sworn in as a president and commander-in-chief of the defense forces on Tuesday next week as per the electoral laws. And finally, Chebukati Sai, chairman of the elections agency, says the court ruling has vindicated him and his team in regards to this particular general election. But one story that has been received with much appreciation by so many people on the social media platform is in regards to what His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta did say in regards to the transition of power in the country, and also President-elect's response to that. And one part that has been lifted from that particular speech by President-elect Dr. William Ruto, where he said, "My administration will recognize in full the now established tradition of honoring our leaders who have served this nation and shall not in any way, manner interfere with the privileges and other entitlements in retirement. They are revered elders of our nation who deserve respect at all times. This particular segment of this particular speech has been appreciated by so many people on social media, terming it as the kind of unity that our country needs, especially during this transition time of what, bearing in mind what we have witnessed in line with this whole politicking season that we have been in. But that is basically the stories that have been captured here on the front page. Of course, we will be giving you more details as we proceed on with this particular segment. But first, a look at the People's Daily. Doreen.
All clear for Ruto as Supreme Court confirms victory. That is what you're waking up to this Tuesday morning, where the 7 Apex Court judge bench rejected the entire evidence that was provided by opponent Raila Odinga together with the other 5 petitions therein. And also, just in line with that, in a statement, Raila Odinga said he had taken note of the decision of the Supreme Court and respects it, although he disagreed with the decision. He is also yet to give a way forward in respect to what next, particularly for, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. But obviously, just going by that particular confirmation by the Apex Court yesterday, this now sets the stage for the swearing-in ceremony of the president-elect. And going by what he said yesterday, or rather what was captured in the presser that he had yesterday, is that he says that this is not just a win for him, but largely a win for every Kenyan. And also, this was more to give hope to thousands of Kenyans, particularly from poor backgrounds, who aspire to a better life. Much has been said already about, Dr. Ruto and his humble background just rising to the position of power. Also, Nyanza still remains peaceful, calm after Supreme Court verdict. You can remember that the U.S. Embassy had issued a directive, particularly, for its citizens not to, or sort of to keep off from the area that is Nyanza, and particularly Kisumu, just going by what the verdict would have come out. But ideally, looks like, this entire area, they have really maintained peace and calm. And a spot check also established the residents remain peaceful and calm as the Supreme Court delivered that verdict. That was before, during, and even after the verdict yesterday. And as I said, clearly this now sets the stage rolling for the swearing-in of the president-elect. And also, the committee had already been preparing for this transition of power, headed by the head of public service, that is Joseph Kinyua. Equally, Dr. Ruto had also appointed those from his camp who would also be part of this particular transition process, or this committee led by Justin Muturi, and also the Uasin Gishu representative Gladys Bos-Shole is equally part of that team that will spearhead, the swearing-in process or ceremony that will be happening on the 13th of September. And yes, much as IEBC was vindicated by, the Apex Court yesterday, right now journalists file new petition against Chebukati and Marjan. And just going by what exactly they're saying, and this particular fresh petition that has been lodged at the High Court, they're seeking the removal of the chairperson, that is Chebukati, the CEO Marjan Hussein Marjan, as well as 2 commissioners over allegation of gross misconduct in the conduct of the 2022 election, citing issues of not really following through with the constitution. And remember that this was also part of the 9 issues that the judges were pronouncing themselves on. This was issue number 6, whether or not they were in line with Article 138 of the Constitution, which clearly kept coming up a lot of times. But I mean, just look like, going by what the judges pronounced themselves yesterday, is that indeed that was followed, so much as there was a caveat in respect to the regulation 87 of the Elections Act, whereby Chebukati gazetted himself, but clearly there were no huge anomalies that would have otherwise made them to overturn the election in respect to that particular issue. But we wait to see how that would pan out at the High Court following, that filing of that particular new petition by the journalists there. And lastly, 13th Parliament to hold first sitting on Thursday. This is obviously after the President Kenyatta gazetted September 8th, which is actually just this Thursday, for the first sitting of Parliament. This is for both houses, National Assembly, as well as the Senate. And as it stands, the first order of business will obviously be the election of both speakers for both houses. And far much what we know so far is that Kenya Kwanza has floated Wetangula, which was actually, what he was promised, if at all, this particular, faction took power or even not. Azimio has floated Kalonzo Musyoka. Initially, they had put forth Kenneth Marende, and this was in anticipation of perhaps the ruling going their way, but that didn't quite happen. And as of yesterday evening, from what we know, is that Kalonzo Musyoka picked the nomination papers, and so he's going to be battling it out with Moses Wetangula. And for the Deputy Speaker on the Kenya Kwanza side, they have put forth Gladys Bos-Sholei, who is the Uasin Gishu women representative. And just going by the Constitution, and particularly Article 106, then this means that Wetangula needs to resign from that seat where he was elected as Bungoma Senator, because you cannot be a member of Parliament and still expect to be elected as Speaker of either of the House. For the Senate, Kenya Kwanza has put forth Amason Kingi and Marende for the Azimio side. Clearly now you understand why all along it has really been a battle of numbers, because after that particular verdict, now focus is shifted to Parliament. Regina.
Talking about the shift to Parliament there and the issue of numbers, there was a question there that was put across to some of the analysts we were having yesterday in regard to the President-elect's speech after the Supreme Court ruling, saying that he wants to be checked. He wants his government to be checked by the opposition. And the question put forth was, well, does the opposition have the requisite numbers to actually, put him in check in as far as legislation is concerned, given that according to the shifts that we have seen, is that Kenya Kwanza has managed to get at least 15 more either independents or parties affiliated to Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition move to Kenya Kwanza, and they're going to be officially there given the timelines and the party agreements there from November. So that is another aspect. There's been talk that the Kenya Kwanza government is almost going to be a single party kind of leadership given the numbers. But hey, we are waiting to see. President-elect William Ruto is yet to be sworn into office, and we're yet to find out what key areas he's going to tackle in his first 100 days. The question has been, what did not work for the presidential petition? And this is a question that has been put, has been fleshed out in this particular paper that I have. And the question is blunders that made Raila and Karua to lose. This is a whole 2-page just analyzing what blunders the Azimio team of 42 lawyers made in this particular petition. Now, according to this article, IEBC and President-elect William Ruto had a clear rebuttal strategy to buttress any allegations. Raila and Karua had anchored their case on discrepancies in transmitted results and infiltration of the Electoral Commission system. And a comment that has also been highlighted here and picked from the Supreme Court judge's judgment there is a question, or rather a response, so to speak, that was read out by Chief Justice Martha Koome. Are we to nullify an election on the basis of a last-minute boardroom rupture between the chairperson of the commission and some of its members? In the absence of any evidence of violation of the Constitution or electoral laws, how can we upset an election in which the people have participated without hindrance as they make their political choices pursuant to Article 38 of the Constitution? To do so would be tantamount to subjecting the sovereign will of the Kenyan people to the quorum antiques of the IEBC, and this we cannot do. The question of IEBC going forward, and as we are waiting for the 21 days to lapse to have a written detailed judgment from the 7 judges who made their unanimous decision yesterday, some of the recommendations that were read out is that there needs to be reform within the electoral body. And given that this is his last term, Wafula Chebukati as chair, he said that while making the declaration of William Ruto as president on the 15th there, he said he's not going to be overseeing any other election there. That puts a question that, are we going to see these reforms? Is the IEBC going to be one of the issues that after the swearing in and, being swearing in of President-elect as well as members of the National Assembly? Is this an issue that they're going to, put to rest? Reforms within the IEBC. That's a question that needs to be answered and answered too. Now, talking as now we focus on this transition, we are looking at September 13th there, and it's a whole process. And this was actually put in place after what the country went through during the contested 2007 general election that saw President Mwai Kibaki, now deceased, sworn in at dusk. So this is not going to happen. Why? Because we have made strides to ensure that it takes a process. Some of the keys needs to note is that the transition committee, will pick a venue for the swearing in of Ruto, president-elect, and this must be within Nairobi City and in a place that allows a public ceremony. Then the committee will gazette the date and place of the swearing-in ceremony and declare the date as a public holiday. Given the numbers and the timelines, we're looking at September 13th on Tuesday. Now, the committee will also, or the Inspector General of the National Police Service will ensure provision of adequate security during the swearing-in ceremony. And during the swearing-in ceremony, Ruto will take oath, which will be administered to him by the Chief Registrar before the Chief Justice or Deputy Chief Justice. Now, the oath has to happen between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Then Ruto will sign a certificate of inauguration in the presence of the Chief Justice or the Deputy Chief Justice. Now, the outgoing President Kenyatta will then hand over to Ruto a sword and the Constitution, which are the instruments of power and authority. In this time, the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta made his address, Kenyans had taken to social media, memes had come out, some even saying that we do not need the sword, we can do it with a knife and panga. Well, hey, as far as the law is concerned, the sword, the ceremonial sword, and the constitutions are required as they are the instruments of power and authority. Then after that, we expect to see Deputy President-elect Mr. Gachagua will take oath of the execution of the functions of the Deputy President, and the new President who is going to take to the podium and give his inauguration speech to the nation. Just a rundown on what to expect come Tuesday the 13th, which is to be gazetted as a public holiday for that. There's also a whole 2-3 pages of Raila's history in politics, and the header here goes, Raila in a familiar territory as poll petition is thrown out once again. The president we never had. Quite a piece here. There are pictures that date back to all the way to 1996 during the Ford Kenya elections in April 14th of 1996, as well as photos here of NAC party members at Uhuru Park in December 2003. Quite a piece there documenting Raila's quest for the presidency there. The question is, what next for Raila Odinga? I'm sure that is going to be, we're going to try and answer that in the next phase of this particular broadcast as Victor takes on our guest this morning. So to you, Victor.
All right, before I continue, Arsenal is still number 1, Manchester United number 5. Let's continue with what?
No.
Moving on.
No. What did you just say?
Chebukati doesn't have power to verify.
You're still number 1, but you took a thrashing from us. The unbeaten was actually beaten. Do you have that conversation? Do you want us to have that conversation?
Chebukati doesn't have power to tally, verify. Okay, we'll come back to that later on, Regina. According to court results, judges ruled that chairman cannot arrogate to himself the power excluding commissioners. That is something that was also argued by the judges, and that's according to them. Indeed, Article 138(10) of the Constitution, although the power to declare the result of a presidential election after verification and tallying is vested in the chairperson, he does not only as a delegate of the commission, he does so only, yes, just to verify, he does so only as a delegate of the commission. That's according to the Chief Justice Martha Koome yesterday. Okay, you've talked about Ruto to be sworn in next week on Tuesday, not later than 2 p.m. Some good news in the business sector, and I think, Regina, this must be some good news for you. NSE investors gain 20 billion shillings as Apex Court upholds Ruto's win. Analysts project further market stability now that the country is over with elections, and I think this will translate to stability in terms of economy. It said that this saw investors' paper wealth grow by 20 billion shillings, with the market capitalization hitting 2.1 trillion shillings compared to 2.1 trillion shillings on Friday. Now, the market, which opened with minimal activities in the early morning, as investors waited for the Apex Court's ruling, saw the main index, the Nairobi All-Share Index, gain 5.93% compared to Friday's trading. And I think, Regina, it's still hopeful, and it's looking so good for the country, so to speak.
Actually, if you look at how the Nairobi bourse behaved before the election, actually not even the presidential election, we saw some investors, especially those who had done short-term, sell waiting to see, and that time actually was very good for if you were looking to invest.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, that jump in the bourse has earned those who had invested that in that period of uncertainty quite the mark, so to speak, or rather quite the profit. So this is a good turn for the country. There's a lot of wait and see that not even just the Nairobi bourse, but even the banks. You try access credit 1 month to August. The answer was like, wacha tuone. Let's wait and see.
Yeah.
But now, I think now that that is out of the way, Kenya is well on its way to recovery. Remember, we still have to do with the ripple effect of COVID-19 effects of 2020, and now the issue, the drought situation, the climate situation is also something that we need to get hands on. Actually, a report by the UN indicates that neighboring Somalia will reach famine by later this year. So it's happening. It's not just an issue within Somalia. Also, we have some counties that are stirring a drought. So it's a good turn.
It's a good time.
Now that we're done. Now that we're done with elections. Yes.
And still on business, Coast Hotels happy with half-year occupancy as industry recovers. They said that there was an occupancy rate of above 70% for the first half of 2022, an indication of the sector's gradual recovery from the 2-year slump. And I think Kenyans are embracing change slowly. We adapted to the corona pandemic situation, but hey, we are coming up. And finally, U.S. Embassy to expedite issuance of U.S. visas to Kenyan's envoy. There was a bit of an outcry of a delay to process U.S. visas. And now, U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Mike Whitman, has pledged to fast-track U.S. visa applications for Kenyans to help clear a backlog of pending visa application at the embassy. And I think these are good news. This announcement came by the U.S. envoy just coming days as a huge reprieve following a spate of public outcry over delays in the visa approval for Kenyans at the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi. So I think for people who've been waiting for that vital document, you have your word from the U.S. Ambassador. I think that's over for me. I'm told that we... Tumalize.
Tumalize.
Yes.
Just as we close, last week was quite the legal class. Which was your favorite word of the week? Your legal jargon word of the week? I will start.
Go.
Jurisprudence.
Jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction.
Jurisprudence.
Jurisdiction.
I heard Amishi. Piki piki ponki.
That's not a legal term.
It's not.
It was used.
It was used.
By our lawyers.
Piki piki ponki.
Plumbers.
Plumbers.
Regina, what was your favorite? What stood out?
Please don't ask me of a term. I was very keen when
What was your
that
legal jargon takeaway?
Listen, just listen to her.
When Piki Piki Ponki was happening, I was just concentrating on the sweat. I was just like,
Allah.
I
Okay.
was like, that man is sweating. He's sweating a good one. But yeah, he was,
Yako ilikuwa ipi?
Nimesema mara mingi, nimesema jurisdiction, nimesema plumber.
Jurisprudence.
Jurisprudence.
My learned friend here.
Kwanza, the guest that we were having yesterday here on on KBC, lawyer Wamboi.
Yes.
The jurisprudence.
Use
that word in an argument.
Someone said that in this season, everyone was a returning officer at some point. Everyone became a political analyst, and everyone became an advocate.
Able use that word
But
in an
did you notice
argument.
that all of the lawyers and advocates, they were calling my friend here,
my learned friend.
my learned friend here, my learned senior here.
I can't speak before my senior speaks.
Yes, there is some level of respect amongst themselves, the legal fraternity.
But it was quite the
we also had a
crash
lesson in
course.
math.
We will miss that.
We also had a
Yes,
lesson
again.
in math.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
We had a lesson in math that
People
was
use
during
the calculators
the
on their
Okiom Tata presentation. And also lawyer Somane of IEBC
Yes.
went to the pains of explaining what was recorded on Form 34A all the way to, good Lord. It reminded me of that math lesson where you were doing statistics and you're like, huh?
Crash course.
But we're talking about the legal fraternity. What about journalists? We did a good job, all right? We were pushed to do our best across all
Kenya is
journalists.
watching.
Exactly.
Kenya is watching.
We did our best. See, tujipige makofi.
Oh,
Someone said that this is the moment where, as a journalist, your skill is put to test.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Push to the corner.
one thing I'm happy about, and I'm not going to mince my words, and I know Ben Kamuti, who was in charge of the Bomas National Talent Center live broadcast there, well, we are happy that we are not going back to the National Talent Center until after 5 years.
We know.
It was not
14-degree temperatures.
a joke.
And
We are
you
glad.
had good company, monkeys.
And the cold.
Yes.
All right, nonetheless, we move.
We move.
All right, so that brings us to a close of this segment, but we still have so much more lined up for you. Do stay with us. We are still using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter, individually at Ray Manyara, at Victor Olo, at Doreen Arange, and at Jane Wamboi. Stay with us. We'll be right back.